All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Looks like the attendee list is still growing, but we'll go ahead and kick off. So again, thank you guys for joining us. I'm Courtney Latima. I'm the director of our inside sales team here at Winslow. My team's only focus is on the endpoint, which includes Intune licensing and all the deployment and training that goes along with it that Jeff's going to be talking about today. I am super pumped up actually to be joined by Jeff. Jeff joined Winslow about a year ago. For me, it feels like he's been here forever. He's our Microsoft guru. He's improved our internal process by allowing us to get on Microsoft Intune and deploying that for us, which has helped me a lot as the person who's responsible for deploying laptops for our employees. But he's also helped countless customers do the same. So he's been a heck of an asset for us. I'm excited to share him with you guys and kind of let you guys get some of that knowledge from him today. So just a quick glance at what we're going to be discussing today. I'll kick us off with a quick overview of who Winslow is for those of you who don't know us. Then I'll hand it off to Jeff. He'll run us through what Microsoft Intune is and how it can kind of change your life as an IT team, the same way it changed mine. We'll round it off by answering questions. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, drop them in the question box that's in the control panel. We'll address them at the end. If we can't get to it for some reason, we'll absolutely follow up with you afterwards, but go ahead and drop them in there for us. And then we'll also be randomly picking the winner for the Solo Stove raffle after we get off here today. So we'll be reaching out to you guys directly, or to the winner directly later this week to get your shipping information and stuff like that. So I'll kick us off with Winslow. So who are we? We're headquartered in Waltham, Mass. We have offices in New York, North Carolina, and most recently DC as well. We were founded 20 years ago as of November this year. As a storage partner, but we've really grown into a full solution provider for our customers. We have a great team of system engineers to help our customers on the pre-sale side of things. A lot of them used to work in the field, so they know what works and what doesn't in an environment, which makes them great consultants for all of our customers. We also have a team of endpoint specialists, which is my team, and they help with anything endpoint related. So again, it's the hardware, the software, the security, and the services that go with all that. Really trying to ensure that our customers are getting the right gear in-house and getting it deployed quickly while keeping all that data safe that's on it. Then there's our cybersecurity team, which is comprised of 5 CISSPs to help our customers really look at security as a multi-layered solution instead of just a singular product. They built our cybersecurity portfolio along the NIST framework. They do fantastic security assessments to help our customers really deep dive into their environment, identify any potential gaps and fill those up. And then we wrap all of that up with a pretty bow with our professional services team. That's the team that really gets their hands dirty with all the deployments and the trainings, which again includes the Intune deployment and trainings that we offer that Jeff's involved in. So we really pride ourselves on making IT personal. We do this by keeping focus on 3 key pillars. We're passionate people with great expertise that deliver unmatched outcomes. We work with a number of vendors, but at the end of the day, we feel it's our responsibility to make sure the outcome is what is expected. We have 5 key stakeholders within the company. First and foremost is our customers. Without our customers, we obviously don't have a company. We ask ourselves, are we doing a good job for our customers? Do they trust us? Are they coming back to us? If the answer is yes, then we're doing something right. Our employees are the second stakeholder. We always talk about having the best team in the business, and we sincerely believe that to be true. We want to make sure our employees enjoy working here and they have upward mobility for growth. Our partners are another big part of our success. We really strive to identify game-changing technology, so we're picky about who we partner with. This really allows us to produce those better outcomes because we're able to dedicate time on trainings and certifications for those chosen vendors instead of having to spread ourselves thin across multiple different vendors. And then that also allows our team to be on a number of key advisory boards across those partners. It's also not lost on us that our community has a direct effect on our employees, our customers, and our company. So it's really a priority of ours to take care of those communities through our diversity and outreach group initiatives. And then lastly is our investor, and by that I mean Scott Winslow. Since we aren't involved with any private equity firms, we're really able to prioritize those other 4 stakeholders and be super flexible. So we're able to sincerely listen to feedback from them, implement changes as needed, and at the end of the day, we're just here to have a positive impact on everyone we're involved with, and we love doing it. So we really appreciate y'all's time today and coming and joining us for this. But that's enough from me. I'm going to pass it off to Jeff. He'll run us through some Intune stuff, and then I'll be back at the end of it to close us up. So just a quick reminder, if you have questions, drop them in that question box, and we'll get to it afterwards when Jeff gets done. So Jeff, I'm gonna hand it off to you.
Thanks, Courtney. How's it going, everyone? So thank you for joining us today on how Intune can benefit your organization. Like Courtney mentioned, I'm one of the professional services engineers here at Winslow, and I primarily focus on the Microsoft stack. So anything from Office 365, Microsoft Identity, Azure, Microsoft Security, on-premise Microsoft products, basically anything within that Microsoft ecosystem. It kind of falls within my realm of expertise. So happy to help you guys with any type of projects that exist within that, or hear you out to see what we can do to lend a hand. But here today we're talking about Intune. So one kind of hyper focus on that just to see what it really could do for your organization. So let's dive in and see what we can come up with. So Intune as a whole, it's a MDM, so a mobile device management and a mobile application management platform. So there's other players that exist out there in the field, like your AirWatches and like IBM as a product, and there's some other ones that exist out there. But at the end of the day, Microsoft realized that, hey, there is a lot of a need, and especially once COVID hit, Intune went full steam ahead. Really made a world of difference as time has went on, and what their product offering is and what they're really trying to accomplish at the end of the day. But Intune's really not an all or nothing solution. We have customers who only use a very small part of it at the end of the day, just to maybe easily push out apps or use the benefits of Autopilot so they can kind of make their imaging process a lot easier. Or maybe it's just a security need that they want to be pushing out like Microsoft Defender or BitLocker in an easier fashion. So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. You don't have to use every single little feature that comes along with Intune. You can kind of pick and choose. And then there's also a lot of integration benefits that do exist at the end of the day. So Autopilot being one of them, if you had an existing like SCCM, you could kind of have a co-management piece with that. They have released new features such as like auto patch, the endpoint analytics, which usually in my kind of deployments, I push that out to everybody, which gives a better insight into troubleshooting and just looking and learning a little bit more about what the end devices could do at the end of the day. But as far as trying to understand Intune, if you aren't familiar with it before, I like to break it down into the following categories. So we start off with configure, and configure kind of consists of the configuration profiles, the policies. This is like group policy on premise, but it's a lot easier to push out. You don't need to have that on premise connection to go pull down those policies. And we all know that something in the past, we tried to push a group policy and someone's remote and becomes the bane of our existence. So you just need the internet connection and you can kind of push that down, which is great. Autopilot's been game changing for a lot of different reasons on Windows devices, where we'll dive into it in a couple minutes, but at the end of the day, you really have the ability to take kind of some of those clunky imaging processes that you used to have before and really make it completely streamlined. Take some of those documents that you have that you're trying to manually run through and automate some processes and really make that whole end user experience a lot more efficient. And then, I mean, between Microsoft Windows devices, Linux devices, Mac, iOS, Android, and now even with Chrome OS, there's tons of different ways to get devices put in. And even if you are going down a path where you're on an existing MDM, there's third-party tools that can help you transition depending on what platform you're using. So a lot of different ways to get a device within Intune itself. And then from a protection standpoint, we have different compliance policies. We have a lot of different stuff that we'll run through on the endpoint security. And then from a management side, you have another animal that you can really dive very deep into with deploying apps out to devices. So whether you're using iOS apps or Google Play Store or even the Windows Store, just you got a bunch of executables and MSIs that you got to get on devices, you can push all of that out through Intune at the end of the day, which really could make your lives a lot easier. And I've been on a lot of sides of things where it's been a pain to push something out, and Intune has made it so much easier as time has went on, and it continues to get better. So taking a little bit of a deeper dive into configure. So like I said, it's kind of like that group policy at the end of the day. So you could build baselines for your end user devices or iOS mobile devices, whatever it's going to be, but you can kind of set those baselines as to what settings the users can see, can't see, What do you want to, at the end of the day, really kind of make standard for your end users? You could use administrative templates just like you would with the normal group policy. I'd probably say within the last 3 to 4 months, they started giving the ability to import ADMX templates. So with your on-premise infrastructure, you always had the ability to just import an ADMX, customize all the settings. Going back a year ago with Intune, it was tough. I mean, you had to do custom XML and all of these other different features to try to get those settings in place. Well, they added a new feature within the last couple months where you just take that same ADMX and ADML files, put them up into Intune, and you get all those same settings just like you would within group policy. And then on top of that, they added another feature probably about 5 or 6 months ago where you could take that on-premise group policy, export it out, import it into Intune, and then analyze it. And if it does match the criteria, you could automatically now import that right into Intune as a configuration policy. So keep adding more things as time goes on, and it keeps getting better. And I mean, it's tough to keep up with at the end of the day because they keep adding things so much. But if you're on LinkedIn or if you're kind of surfing along the Microsoft platforms, they always have a what's new within Intune, and you can see everything that keeps getting added to it, or usually a lot of times it makes it more mainstream into any of those platforms, like I said, LinkedIn, Microsoft, or people are talking about it a lot more. But as far as other things that you could do, they have a settings catalog. So, I mean, just thinking about what you might want to push out to a device at the end of the day. Maybe you're pushing out Wi-Fi settings. Maybe you want to control the power options. Maybe you have a script that you need to deploy out to map drives, printers. I mean, you name it, it has that ability to really take it from what it used to be, which used to be kind of a pain to push out group policy. Just all you need is the internet connection. You can send that script out, or you can uninstall apps from scripts, or I mean, there's just so many capabilities at the end of the day of what you could do. We'll talk about Autopilot coming up in a second, but like I said, as far as standard enrollment's concerned, I mean, what's really nice at the end of the day is you can be in one single platform and manage your Windows devices, manage your iOS devices, all your Macs, your Android devices, push out the apps to them. And then within the last month, they actually just added Chrome OS. Currently in preview, can't do a lot with it at this point, but all those school districts out there that were kind of, you wanted to have a little bit of mix of Windows and you want to have a little bit of mix of Chromebooks, it looks like things are on the up and up if you are using Microsoft licensing, that you can start to integrate that a little bit better. So if you do have the Chrome OS, you can just get the ability to connect your Google admin platform and at least just handle some remote commands. But I would say within the next couple months, you should probably start seeing additional capabilities get added as time goes on. One of the big key questions on any of the phone calls that I've ever sat in that people were interested in Intune would be Autopilot. Everybody's got the smart deploys and the ghost, and it's tough to keep up with the golden image at the end of the day. I mean, let's face it. So Autopilot really has kind of, in my eyes, been a game changer to try to make that easier. So, I mean, you could see kind of based off of what the images are at the end of the day, but you went to Dell, you went to Lenovo, you went to HP, and you said, I need a laptop. Normally, you would send it back to your office, you got to go throw it and get an image on it. Then you'd have to go create the user, get everything set up for them, ship it out. You could still do that at the end of the day, but Autopilot can now start to leverage a lot of automation features to make things easier. So, I mean, just that rapid setup and deployment of devices, standardize everything across the board. Even from a break fix standpoint, how many times have we went down the path of an application wasn't working right on some device and it just needs to be wiped? There's no other way around it. We've tried reinstalling the app 5 times and it's not doing it. And hey, this has been in play now for 2 or 3 years. Let's wipe it. Autopilot can take it through that automation process to really make that easier. But one of the big key takeaways is you can actually leverage the existing vendors and establish the relationship with Microsoft. And let's just say Dell for right now. They can actually ship the device to the end user, or you can still get it shipped to your office. You go through the Autopilot process. Dell is going to actually add that device into Autopilot to have it ready. You say what user it's going to, so you make your user, and then you ship it off to the user. They sign in with their temporary password, or if it was an existing user, their existing password, and it goes through a wizard. You can kind of see here on what that kind of looks like. And as far as that process, it installs the apps, it gets the policies going, and once everything's completed, you get down to logging into the desktop and you're ready to go. Completely different compared to what it used to be, where you always had to be on-prem, and there's some little nuances and glitches and things like that, depending if you're only like a cloud only or if you're a hybrid Azure AD. There's some additional like requirements and some things to consider with that, and that's kind of stuff that we can dig into. But a lot of capability at the end of the day to really try to take that automation of getting those end user devices out quick, efficiently, and standard. As far as protect, one thing that I always had a pain that I didn't like to deal with was like BitLocker. BitLocker, it was always a struggle to push it out through a GPO, wait for it to try to get on the end user devices. It just was a pain. It really has become a lot easier with Intune to just push out a policy. You get full details of what is going on with it. You don't have to worry about escrowing keys if you never put in BitLocker before, or if you already have BitLocker on your devices and you want to get them up to Azure AD, you can run a script and get those devices put, the BitLocker keys put right up in there into Azure AD and into the Intune environment. So a lot of flexibility there. Very kind of similar look and feel to what the GPO is, but I mean, it is a lot easier to push that out. And I mean, with compliance changes nowadays, it's almost becoming standard practice that you need to do something like that. So that really could make your life easier if that becomes something that has to become more mainstream for you. And as far as like security baselines, you could do, there quite literally is 100+ settings to harden devices. So if you want to make sure you turn off certain areas for those end users to not be able to touch, you could do that. If you want to have certain settings as far as like what the user could do with Wi-Fi or hotspots, or I mean, just countless different settings on the Windows devices, you can make baselines for them, which is a great thing to have. And obviously you want to give the users a little bit of power to be able to run their applications, but you don't want them to have an open world to just put on what they want. It's a threat, and unfortunately, it's a reality that a lot of us have to face, where we really have to watch what we do on a day-to-day basis and what we expose everybody to. So great to be able to set those baselines and be able to report on it so you know exactly what's going on with your devices. Like I said, as far as disk encryption is concerned, it does have File Vault too. So if you are Mac users, you could push out File Vault encryption. There's different compliance policies that you can put in place, and this is the same thing from a security standpoint or just from the regular device. So if you have a certain version of iOS that you want to become the minimum version, or a certain version of Windows 10 that you want to be the minimum version, they have to meet it. If they don't meet it, then they're not going to have the ability to use their device until they remedy that. So that really kind of makes your life a little bit easier there, where you know that you're not having risky devices, or you can put jailbroken devices on there, so you don't have that ability to have that security risk at the end of the day. And then if you are using like Windows Defender, you have the ability to really make it completely streamlined. So pushing out your policies, pushing out the end user device, the endpoint software, putting in like account protection or endpoint protection where they have the EDR, depending on what type of Defender plan you have, or setting your firewall rules or anything like that. You really could do a lot of customization, and it tightly integrates with the regular security portal within Microsoft. So a lot of options, and they keep adding more, which is great. And as far as manage is concerned, we can deploy apps, we can update apps, we can also remove apps at the same time, whether that's pushing up executables, MSIs. You have the full capability to use like the self-service portal, which they call the company portal. So you can at least allow users to be able to download applications if you don't want to automatically push them to it. As far as like iOS apps are concerned, you have the full capability to integrate with like VPP tokens through their business program, push all of those licenses that you purchase the apps from, sync them over, assign them out, they get put on there. And same thing with Google Play, same thing with the Windows Store. You can get all those tightly coupled together. And then if you have your executable, you can push that up. If you have an MSI file, you can push that out. So really taking a step back at that imaging process, you can see that a lot of capability there at the end of the day. And I mean, just countless different options as far as pushing out applications. And as far as protecting those applications, there's different app configuration policies. So if you have Microsoft Office and you want to restrict printing on a device because you don't want that sensitive information to be printed or shared, you could put those kind of policies in place. So a lot to unwrap there, but there's a lot of capability. I think that's the big takeaway as we run through all these slides. And then as we kind of wrap up, Intune really is a powerful, agile, and just tremendously, at the end of the day, really could benefit your business. Like I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all. A lot of times people don't even really know that they had the license. So if you're using like Business Premium, you have like the Office 365, like the M365 E3 or E5, you have it. Or even if you have like the Enterprise Mobility and Security E3 licensing, you get Intune with it, in addition to like some Azure Active Directory benefits and things like that that come with it, or even on the school standpoint, depending if you're using like the A3s or the A5s, you got Intune. You might as well use those benefits to start pushing out those devices and just really trying to get a leg up in terms of taking less administration effort to keep things running the way that they need to. But you get that rapid device deployment. You can really centralize the device hardening instead of having 5 or 6 different portals to do these kind of things. You can really start to make things a lot more efficient in that regard, and maybe save a little bit of licensing money on top of that too. You can quick get apps published to students or faculty or employees or whatever your end users look like. Like I said, you get device insights at the end of the day to really know how the devices are performing, and at least start getting a first look at potential problems that could exist. So if something's hanging on startup, you can start to take a look into that a little bit more. And like I said, you can, if you have Defender licensing, you can integrate that, push things out right through the policy, and just really get the peace of mind to know that you're really taking a hold of those deployments and trying to make things easier for yourself and the end users. But just to kind of wrap things up, if you already are an existing user with Intune, or you never used it a day in your life and you want to learn a little bit more about it, if you really want to kind of take that mobile device strategy and really start to control those corporate devices, we can help. We can have a quick call. I got a demo environment that we can run through and really start to hone in on the different processes of what you're looking to optimize, or how, I mean, whether it's 10 devices or if it's 10,000 devices, Intune could be a benefit for you if you have to push out those devices at the end of the day. So we're more than happy to help. We're more than happy to listen. And we're more than happy to be a resource for you. So reach out to us. Like I said, we do, even if you use Intune and you want to have a training session with us where we kind of take a look over things and see what best practices look like for your environment, we can carve up some hours and have a project on that. So a lot of flexibility, whether you're already using it, you want to use it, or you're thinking about using it, just reach out to us. But like I said, we definitely appreciate you joining us today. If you have any questions at all, we'll kind of use this time before we wrap up to answer anything that you guys have. And you've seen throughout the process, we'll get this posted out. We have it recorded right now, but feel free, reach out to us. We're happy to be a resource, whether it's Microsoft or really anything within your infrastructure. So appreciate your time today.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. And we do have a number of questions, so I'll try to rapid fire them at you. You mentioned this, I think, a slide or two ago, but I just want to make sure we reiterate, because there were a couple of questions. Which licenses include Intune already if we have Office 365 or Microsoft 365 customers?
Yeah, Microsoft is super confusing on licensing, and it's just a pain to just digest at the end of the day. But if it's O365 E3 or O365 E5, you don't get it. But if it's the mobility license, so they call it M365 E3, M365 E5, there's an add-on for this enterprise and mobility and security E3 that includes Intune. If you're using, like if you're under like 300 and you're using business premium, that has the Intune license with it, or you just buy it on your own. If you don't want to have anything else other than that, they have add-on SKUs for that. And then on the education side and the government side, I don't know those off the top of my head. I know from the education side, an A3 and an A5 have that capability. But I believe there might be some other ones that might have it as well, but that's at least a high level. You have a lot of options to add it on, and depending on what other features you're looking for, it might make sense to bundle, or you might even have it already.
Yeah, it looks like for government, it's G3 and G5. So essentially, if you have anything 5, it seems to be like you're in the right
G5's
spot.
the Cadillac, yeah.
Awesome. So one other question we had is how can Intune be used to push and control Windows and Microsoft updates?
So there is a whole other side that we didn't even get a chance to talk about. They have update rings within the platform right under the devices where whether it's quality updates, security updates, Windows updates, it could push those out. Even like drivers, if you're on 10 and you need to go to 11, there's different update rings that you could push to start controlling that. I think the biggest takeaway is like if you're going from a WSUS server to that, you lose a lot of granularity. You're putting a lot more effort into Windows to handle it. So if you're okay with that and a little bit of reporting, that's great. If you want like deep dive, third-party updates, the whole nine, that's where we start to look at leveraging like a third-party product like Automox, which does a tremendous job. But if you kind of just need the basics, then that's where the update rings could be a really good fit.
Awesome. Does it run at log on or log off, or whenever the device is connected to the internet? How can we force it to run? And if it is going to replace group date or force?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, once the device is within Intune itself, just about every hour, give or take, Microsoft does do a check-in to see like, hey, what updates changed, anything like that. Whether you're on the device, there's a way that you can go in through the settings like account work or school and sync the device manually, or if the device is already within Intune itself, you actually have a sync button within there with a lot of other remote capability, whether it's renaming devices, wiping, or on the mobile side, like with passcodes and things like that. You start opening the doors for that mobile device management to make things easy, even down to like a locating device for like mobile apps. That is something that it has the capability on. Like I said, just limited time, we can't run through those things today, but there's a lot under the hood that a lot of times you don't even realize, or like I said, it has integrations with like TeamViewer, the VPP tokens with Apple or like Google Play, which really can make things a lot easier for you.
Awesome. And again, guys, I apologize. There's a ton of questions, so we're probably not going to get to all of them, but we'll absolutely be following up with everyone. We'll do one more question, and the question is there more in-depth training available, such as for an organization's IT team?
Yeah. I mean, if you're using it now and you want best practices, that's something that you can leverage us for. I've been on a lot of different projects now over the last year plus now that have either been super in depth and over all the platforms, or they've just been a small business that needs to get Windows up and running. So whatever you're looking for, we can kind of have a call, identify what's going to be the best way to handle it, whether we want to do a soup to nuts, we want to do like a paid engagement in terms of just so many hours that we're going to review it and do the best practices on it, or we're teaching you the ropes. That definitely is something that we've done before in the past and give at least a little bit better understanding on how to use Intune on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jeff. We are coming up at time. I want to be respectful of everybody's time as to not keep everyone over. Again, there were a ton of questions that were asked, and there's a lot more to come. So what we'll do is we'll follow up with everyone, especially if you had questions that weren't answered. But we'll make sure to follow up with everyone to get those answered. And if you have additional questions that you didn't answer here or that pop up, or if you want to set up some time with Jeff one-on-one or with your team to discuss your specific environment, we're happy to do that. Jeff's available and willing to do that for us. So our team will follow up with all of you guys. We'll get answers to all your questions. We really appreciate all of you guys joining us today, and we appreciate your time. So I hope you guys all have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.